Winnie was speaking about two organizations that you really were at the core of helping them transition. And here we're talking about KCB Group, and also the East African Breweries Limited, that's EABL.
Okay.
Most of us will remember the old logos versus the new logos. Of course, they are advertisers, and people would say, oh, well, they've just changed. So it's a marketing conversation, or that's just about it. But from your perspective, you say, even with that rebrand, there's a whole people strategy element embedded into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we see is the end result of it. So
Yeah.
take us through that journey, into how such companies coming to that level where they now say, you know what, we're even changing our colors, or we're even changing our logos for that matter.
Okay. Change in organization is often driven by various factors. Some of it, for example, may be non-performance, and some of it could be through mergers and acquisitions. And some of it could also be that they're moving into, say, private sector, they're changing ownership. And therefore they look at, so we're changing ownership as an example. Who do we want to be seen as going into the future? And then behind that, there's the promises that you've made to your stakeholders as leadership. And therefore, as you go out to your stakeholders, there's a picture that you want to see out there. In order to deliver this picture, there's your people behind that. They're the ones who are going to deliver on the results and the promises that you have made. It also comes from thinking about the purpose of the organization and saying, this is who we are as our purpose and the reason why we exist as an organization. And therefore you go, you work behind the scenes to understand where you are and where you're going into in terms of the business, our business strategies, the purpose of us being there, the kind of profits that we want to make, or that is for profit, organizations or for non-profit organizations. And people are always a key pillar to the delivery of that. And so you look at your people and say, how are we structured from a people capital perspective? And will this help us to get there? So in the work that I was involved in, say, with KCB, they were coming from being a government-led bank, and there was more private sector influence getting into it, and that was the future. And so their old lion, as you call it, was just a symbol of the government influence then. And they were moving to this private sector thinking. So then it was only natural then they asked themselves, what kind of people do we have, and are they going to help us to get there? And how do we appear, therefore, to our stakeholders? Because you need to do a 360 kind of review, asking your stakeholders externally as well as internally, how you're structured to deliver for the future. And then you build your symbols there. So there was work that was done in the people space, there was work that was done in the operations space, and also in terms of the structures. And I therefore went in as a HR change manager to work on the people space. And between marketing, operations, and therefore the people, or HR in charge of that, we came up with this program. And my role was therefore to build the program, understand the concept of where the bank was heading into, and create programs that will help us to immerse the people. And I led that. So we had typical programs on asking people, looking at the KCB we have now, will it take us the KCB we want to have? And what are the gaps? And then using that, we would address the gap there to get us there.
Do you have a time period of maybe say, okay, well, we rebranded at this time, we did our culture audit at this time, and then this brand will take us X number of years. Do you have that? Or you just, advise clients to just have it that, always change? Can you do it yearly? Can you do it 5 years, 10 years?
Okay. Let me start by saying this, that the impact of culture on any organization takes about 4 years.
4 years.
That's when you can say, this organization feels like this. This is who they are. So it is a journey.
Yeah.
But it's always, to your point, it's always important to go back and ask yourself, are we still structured right? Do our customers still see us as who we expect to see? Again, with a change of strategy, with a change of your business thinking, always ask yourself, how are we structured? Is our culture right? And so when you talk about organization design, again, another favorite topic of mine, is that whenever you talk about your organization strategy, And then you go into asking yourself, are we structured right? Culture always sits at the base of that. And therefore, you always need to talk about culture. Think about all these other areas or all these other pillars, but culture always sits at the base of that. And therefore, they need to ask yourself consistently, are we structured right?